Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're validating a very real struggle, learning new skills as an adult. We're going to uncover exactly what's happening in our brains and our daily lives. If you've ever tried picking up a new language, mastering some complex software at work, or honestly just trying a new hobby, and thought, man, why is this so much harder than it was in college? Well, you are absolutely not alone. We're going to dive into the data, bust some widespread myths, and look at the actual science of adult learning. So why does learning feel so incredibly hard after 30? It's a super common frustration, right? Especially for women who are feeling this massive social and professional pressure to continuously upskill, but finding it feels like, pushing a boulder uphill. Our first instinct is usually to blame ourselves, to think we've just lost our edge. But the source material gives us a fascinating look at the biological and situational realities that actually create this friction. Think back to your 20s for a second. You had high brain plasticity, lightning-fast processing speeds, and usually a lot more free time with an open, exploratory mindset. Now, fast forward to life after 30. Learning didn't suddenly become impossible, but the game completely changed. We're dealing with declining plasticities, slower processing, and let's be real, a risk-averse mindset fueled by a fear of failure. Oh, and a heavily jam-packed schedule full of adult responsibilities. It's literally an entirely different environment for your brain to operate in. Section 1, the biological baseline. What happens to our brains? Let's start with the hard science here, because there are very real neurobiological changes that happen to everyone, regardless of gender. The key concept we need to talk about is neuroplasticity. That's just your brain's ability to form new connections. And, well, as the source notes, this ability naturally and gradually starts declining in our mid-20s. Your brain actually becomes more efficient, but way less flexible. It's exactly why you can effortlessly belt out the lyrics to a song you loved in high school, but totally blank on the steps for a new software update. You get exceptionally good at what you already know, but forging brand new neural pathways, that just requires a lot more deliberate effort. Let's zoom in on those changes for a second. Your prefrontal cortex, that's the area managing planning and working memory, actually shrinks slightly with age, which, definitely affects your multitasking. On top of that, crucial neurotransmitters like dopamine and acetylcholine start to drop off, and that hits your motivation and attention right where it hurts. Ultimately, your overall processing speed just slows down, so new information takes a bit longer to stick. But hey, remember, this is a totally universal human experience. It's just the baseline. But those biological shifts, they eventually morph into psychological hurdles. As adults, we really get in our own way. We face mental blocks that a 19-year-old rarely even thinks about. Think about the profound fear of failure. The emotional stakes just feel so much higher now. Plus, we get intense performance anxiety from the pressure to succeed immediately at work. And perhaps the most dangerous trap is slipping into a fixed mindset. Telling ourselves, I just can't learn this at my age. That thought alone immediately kills our effort and persistence. Section 2, the paradigm shift, biology versus social reality. So, if these brain changes and mental traps happen to literally everyone, why does the burden of learning often feel so much heavier specifically for women? Well, the source material makes an absolutely crucial point here. To quote it directly, the gap you're observing is largely social and structural, not biological. Meaning, the idea that women inherently struggle more with adult learning because of some unique brain difference, total myth. The research is crystal clear that neuroplasticity declines similarly in both men and women. The real difference isn't biology, it's our daily lives. When we really peel back the layers, the true culprits show themselves. For women in their 30s, the struggle is heavily tied to what the source calls the invisible load. We're talking about the massive amount of time absorbed by caregiving, constantly running in the background alongside the exhausting mental gymnastics of managing a household. These things directly compete with your brain's capacity to learn. Add in career pauses like maternity leave and the severe sleep deprivation that absolutely wrecks memory consolidation, and the picture becomes super clear. Time scarcity and sheer mental exhaustion are the actual barriers. And we've got to look at career pressure, right? Historically, that pressure has fallen heavier on men, serving as a huge external motivator to keep upskilling. But here's the reality check. Women face intense career pressures too. The fundamental difference isn't a lack of drive. It's a severe lack of available time and the cognitive bandwidth needed to actually execute that learning. And it's entirely because of those invisible loads we just talked about. When you stack the myths directly against the reality, the contrast is stark. Raw brain plasticity declines the exact same way for men and women. But time available to learn? Women often have significantly less of it in their 30s.
The social pressure to upskill has historically been heavily placed on men, though thankfully that is shifting. And finally, confidence. Imposter syndrome holds women back far more due to pervasive societal messaging. The data overwhelmingly proves that women who have comparable time and support learn just as effectively as men after 30, period.
Section 3, the solution. How adults learn effectively. Knowing all of this, the biology, the psychology, the structural realities, how do we actually adapt? Because learning absolutely does not stop after 30. It just changes form. Since we can't just rely on that spongy brain of our 20s, we need targeted strategies. Step 1, microlearning. Break skills down into tiny, manageable chunks that actually fit into a chaotic schedule. Step 2, a growth mindset. You have to actively believe improvement is possible. Step 3 is deliberate practice. Focus and consistent repetition literally force new neural pathways to strengthen. Step 4, support systems. Find peer groups or mentors to hold you accountable. And step 5, don't roll your eyes at this one, a healthy lifestyle. Getting enough sleep, exercise, and good nutrition directly, measurably boosts your cognitive performance. But wait, here is your hidden superpower as an adult. You possess what researchers call compensation strategies. You are not starting from scratch. You have years of life experience, accumulated knowledge, and battle-tested problem-solving skills. If you're learning a new software system, you aren't just memorizing where to click. You're applying a decade of understanding how workflows actually operate. A 20-year-old might process raw new data slightly faster, sure, but you excel at applying prior knowledge to complex, context-rich situations. You connect new info to existing mental frameworks, making you a deeply effective, strategic learner. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative thought from the source material. We've established that the adult brain is totally capable, and we know the exact strategies we need to use. So the real question isn't whether you can learn after 30. The real question is, who gets the conditions to learn? Who gets to have that unequal burden of time scarcity and mental load lifted just enough to actually focus? It's a massive structural question about how time and support are distributed in our society. Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive, and I really hope it changes the way you view your own incredible capacity to learn.